so if you're on, just comment below and tell me where you are streaming from, just so I can read my comments. I'm actually going to be looking at my phone to read my comments or questions, because the reason why I'm doing a live webinar or class workshop is because I want you guys to ask questions while we're going through this. Let me see if I can move my picture down here. All right. So give me a thumbs up if you can hear me, and let me know where you are joining us from. Michelle, yes, Michelle. Thank you so much, Michelle, for sharing this. I have a little surprise for you because you were actually the first one to share this workshop. So I have the trashman outside, and I have the dog in the back barking that we found a dog this weekend. But we'll just give a couple more minutes to get started. I'm so glad you guys did join me. And if you couldn't make it live right now to ask questions and whatever, that is okay. You can register. See, Michelle registered, my friend Mark registered, a bunch of other people registered with Eventbrite. So they will automatically get the replay. I will not be leaving this live up for until it will come down tomorrow. So they will get my notes and the replay. So that's kind of fun and exciting. And they get to be entered into the giveaway. I am going to be giving away something very, very special and dear to my heart. Okay, so I'm going to get started because I like to start on time. And that's a boundary, actually, for people who, let me fix my lighting here. And actually, I teach this pretty much in the community everywhere. But I love the idea of teaching online. I was challenged by a professor of sociology. She's online and she's amazing. And she challenged me to teach online. So that's what I'm doing. Okay, so today we are going to talk just a segment of, because I have so much on this topic. Like, I literally am making a huge course out of this. But I'm just taking a piece of it, and I'm just going to share with you guys what it's about, because it really has to do with all of us. This affects every single person. So if you're watching, it's because you are definitely a leader, and you are either leading a family, or you're leading a business, or maybe you're involved in church ministry, or, you know, I don't know if anyone's read the book, John Maxwell, 360 Leader. He basically is saying, you are a leader no matter where you're at. Like, somebody is looking at your life and watching how you do conflict and confrontation, and they're watching to see if you do it well or not, okay? I know my kids are watching me to see if I do that well or not. So this course, I'm here to build big people. I'm not here to build a big following. I'm here to pour into lives. I've been coaching and counseling for the past 20 years, and the people that I have come across that have come to me to get help are amazing people, such as Mark Butler. They are amazing people. They are leaders. They are strong, confident people that want to bring unity and understanding into society and into their communities. And that's why I'm doing this. I'm very passionate about this. I could teach on it till I die. So, and in leadership, people look to leaders to bring solutions. And I just feel so urgent these days. Like, we are coming in a time where the world is going to look to us for solutions. They are going to look to us to say, you know, oh my gosh, what is going on? Why aren't you guys freaking out? That is why I'm so passionate about doing this, because I feel like there are key people who are maybe going to watch this workshop, or maybe later on buy my course, and they're going to say, wow, this gave me the tools to be completely confident when the poop hits the fan, because there's a shaking going on right now, and it is already happening. So you can, you know, bury your head in the sand and act like it's not, but it is. And 2020 is going to look very different than this year does. And so we're going to need these tools to learn how to deal with difficult situations, difficult people, confrontations, conflict, and the world's going to look and see, wow, these people know how to handle this. I wouldn't have been able to do that. You know, how many times did you see someone handle a situation you thought, oh my gosh, they're like amazing. I would have never been able to do that. Well, that's what people are going to say about you, because you're learning, you're taking the time out of your day to learn this stuff. So who am I? So Michelle, you don't know me too well, but Mark does. So I'm a very passionate person. I have a master's in psychology, undergrad in criminal justice. I love anything to do with crime and criminals. I love to study human behavior. So that's why I got into all of that. My friends sometimes secretly think I'm in the CIA or FBI, which I'm not. But and I love watching people grow and transform and breaking free from any hindrances or limitations that they have in their life. So that's really, I help people get to the root issue of problems. I'm not into behavior modification. I'm not into, hey, say these 5 things every day and your life will change. I'm not into that. That's like namby-pamby woo-woo stuff for me. I am into deep, hardcore root changes. And you can ask anyone that has done coaching with me. They will say, you better be ready to do coaching with Nicole, because I don't sugarcoat things. I'm very direct. And I feel like an urgency for my message to the world. And we were missionaries for 3 years. We lived in Central America, me and my husband, pre-kids. And we've been married 23 years this September. And we started a teen challenge there and worked with gang members. So I know a tiny bit about confrontation and conflict. I have been threatened. My husband has been threatened. We've had employees that have threatened our lives. We had a drilling business when we came back to Lakeland, and we learned how to work with very rough men. I mean, that's, and being a woman and learning how to do that, it's a skill. It is definitely a skill, and it's one that you can learn. You can learn how to work with all races, all genders, everything. So that's what I want people to come away with. I want them to come away with confidence, even if it's one thing. Because, I do have a little ADHD and I like to go all over the place. But if you take away one thing from this workshop, then that's what matters. And so if you want to comment below and just kind of answer to me why you hopped on this workshop, or what was like catching about it to you, or what is something that you want to get out of, and then definitely ask questions while you are watching. That's the only reason why I did it live, is because I wanted people to, wow, Michelle has 5 kids. That is amazing, girl. Kudos to Michelle. Trying to teach them by example. Yes, and go into ministry. Absolutely, you are definitely a leader. You are leading by example. You're modeling behavior, and that is what I want to teach people to get better at. And because we're doing it regardless, whether we're good at it or not, we're doing it all the time. I always tell people, as a Christian, the only gospel that some people will ever read their whole life is your life. They may never read the Bible. They may never go to church, but they are looking at your life to see what you're modeling. So that's awesome. So I have a giveaway, and actually Michelle is going to get a free copy of me and my mentor's book, Pat Stark. It's Pat Stark wrote it with me, and she's amazing. She is, I won't say her age, but she is a sage, a woman of wisdom. And I'm also going to do I'm going to give away one to Michelle because she shared it, and then a couple others for people that had signed up. So they're going to get the free replay and my notes, because this live will be coming down tomorrow. So you guys make sure, I'll leave a link at the end. Hey, Carol, that you guys can sign up. A lot of you have already signed up, so you're going to get the replay and my notes anyway, and then you'll get in the drawing for one of my books. And then actually a couple of you already have my book. So, but it's a good workbook to give to someone, maybe your spouse, or, just to work through emotional health. I believe a lot of disease is caused because of unresolved emotions and stuffed emotions, unresolved issues. I believe a lot of physical disease is because of that. And there's a lot of research out there that actually proves that. But we're not going to get into that today. Today we're talking about confrontation. We're talking about conflict and what we feel when that happens, and why it is so natural that we run from it and that we're afraid of it. I mean, I myself am a very strong, opinionated person, and I don't like it when someone says, Nicole, we really need to talk. I don't like that. It makes me nervous. I start thinking, oh my God, what did I do? It's just not a cool feeling, right? And especially when it's someone you really, really care about and you're in a close relationship with, and that relationship might be threatened. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, just empowering you. That confrontation is about growing, and it's about being empowered. It's not about fist fighting, verbal, exchange tantrums, dominating and intimidating. A lot of what you see on Facebook, a lot of what you experience in your you know, maybe your families or with coworkers. So that is definitely happening. Hey, Cheryl. Hey, Kenny. I'm so glad you guys are on. And post down below for you guys just coming on why you joined, why you wanted to watch this workshop. So we want to know, what is our goal of conversation? The first goal is to understand. We want to bring understanding, even if the conversation is like doesn't feel so good, or you know, I want to understand how people are experiencing me and how I am, like what Michelle was saying, modeling behavior to maybe my children or my spouse, or you know, someone in ministry, or to my workplace. You know, that's what I want to understand. So I want people to know that conversations are not about agreeing. A lot of people think that, you know, especially when they get married, they're like, oh, this person, we have so much in common, they're just like me. And then after like a year, you're like, this person is nothing like me. This person doesn't, you know, they're nothing like me at all. And I don't like that. Sociology says that we tend to group with people who are very much like us. So then when you're living with someone and they're totally different, men are from Mars, women are from Venus thing, you're like, wait a minute, we're not agreeing, we're not seeing eye to eye on this. And what I want to kind of take off the table and debunk that myth is that conversation is about understanding one another, even if I don't agree with you. And that's going to happen even more and more. We're going to see it on social media. We're going to see it throughout the world, is that can we love well and understand each other even when we don't agree with each other? You know, or are we going to call people, you know, idiots or bigots or whatever because they don't agree with what I agree with? And we're already seeing that. So that's why this is such an important topic for us to really embrace. Okay, thank you, Kenny. Kenny says good stuff. Okay, so the ultimate goal, remember I said our first instinct is to run from this. We don't like confrontation, we don't like conflict, and we definitely don't want to hang out with difficult people. But sometimes we have to, that's the thing. And I want you to feel confident when something happens, when someone says, hey, we got to talk, or when your boss calls you in and you don't know what happened, or you don't know what's going on. Yes, Carol said she joined to be more effective in her relationships. That's the whole reason why I started on this journey, because here's the key. We were made for connection. God made us for connection. And you've heard the old saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. That is so true, my friend. And the world is looking to see, who do you know and how are you handling, how are you stewarding those relationships? So I love that, Carol. We want to manage anxiety. So the first thing you feel, hey, Carol, I got to talk to you. Oh, I have something I need to talk to you about. You know, I still get that anxiety when I hear that. I'm like, oh my gosh. My first instinct is, what did I do? You know, I grew up in a home where you were just constantly punished for any failure, any mistake you made. And honestly, I've had to unlearn a lot of that from growing up, but we were modeled something when we were growing up. We were modeled something. We were either felt safe and nurtured and loved and cared for, or we were constantly punished, constantly feeling afraid or insecure and having to self-protect ourselves. And never, a lot of us were not modeled this third one, communicating courageously. That means like you're vulnerable, you're saying, hey man, I am feeling really unsafe right now because of the way you're talking to me, or whatever, you know. We'll get into some more examples with that. And then we want to learn how to adjust to other people. Okay, my instinct always was to either fight or run away. Like that's usually, you know, how we call adjusting to other people. Yes, a lot of media, we're seeing a lot of conflict, bullying, intimidation, domination. There's a lot of trolls out there. Like you'll hear that term. A lot of people will, you know, older people will say, Nicole, what's a troll? It's someone who's basically going in your groups, going on your posts, and they're basically making nasty accusations and remarks. So why is conflict ugly? Well, it's very ugly, and I don't know. I've been in Australia. I've seen kangaroos fight, and it's scary. It's the sounds, the voice, the atmosphere. It's scary because it's all about fear. Conflict is always usually fear-based. And what I want to present today in this workshop is how, and in my course, is how conflict doesn't have to be fear-based. Like I can be a very confident person and not be afraid of how you're reacting, and not be moved by you know, the way you're handling yourself. And, you know, I talk to a lot of parents who will say, man, my kid, whenever they start freaking out, I get really angry, and it's because of fear. They're getting angry because of fear. And so, you know, most of our emotions will say, oh, I was frustrated, or I was shocked, or I was ashamed. A lot of it underneath is because of fear. And I always tell people we're either being motivated by love or by fear. So when we're threatened, we need to have a plan. We need to know what our goal is. Remember, I told you the goal, especially if I feel threatened, I'll use Mark, because I always use Mark as an example, even when I'm teaching live or in person. So if Mark's saying something to me, I have to sit there and think to myself, what is my goal here? Oh, wait, I love Mark. I want to be connected to him. So I need to hear what he's saying and not automatically react or whatever. So, you know, the plan of this whole course and, you know, just this short workshop today is that you will learn how to respond and not react, and then take action. Hey, let's take action. Let's work on this. Let's do this in a civil manner, right? So how do you respond when you get defensive? Why do people get defensive? Well, again, it's in our nature. If you know, I grew up watching PBS. I grew up watching, you know, I don't know what it was called, Nature and Wild Things and all those shows, right? Because we didn't have cable. And I watched how animals defended themselves. And so they either freeze, you know, they'll try to blend in with the environment. Hey, Bob, yeah, I'm glad you're here. They will freeze and just shut down. And I do a lot of counseling with couples, and I'll hear them say, you know, my spouse just completely shuts down. There's no communication. There's, no matter what I say, I can yell, I can write it down, I can do this, and they just freeze. They try to blend in and try to act like they're part of the wall, right? So that's one way we do it. And I want you to think about what you do most of the time, because we can actually do all three of these. I have frozen before, I have run, and I have fought. So my go-to is to fight. That's mine. So what is your go-to? I want you to comment down below and let me know what your go-to is. Hey, Sarah, is your go-to to freeze and shut down and like try to blend in with, you know, the bushes? Or do you run? Do you just completely avoid, oh, I'm never going to talk to that person again. I'm going to block them. I'm going to do this or that, you know, and we'll talk about when that is actually appropriate. There is a time when you do need to do that. But that's not what I'm talking about right now. I'm just talking about your normal defense. When you get defensive, what do? It's really important you know how you react. And so that you can, you know, learn how to react to, respond to other people. Michelle says she's fight. Woohoo, Michelle's a fighter like me. Yeah, I definitely do. I've got a lot better in my old age. But part of me, I've turned that into something good. You know, the enemy will try to use what was evil, and God will always turn it into good. So I'm like, okay, there's skills that we can learn in confrontation. And it is one of the things that destroys relationships. I said it on a Facebook Live last week. Not confronting issues destroys your relationship. So that's why I'm doing this workshop. The second one is not setting boundaries, which is a whole nother section of my course. Could be a different workshop. I might do a live free workshop on that. And then the third one is not taking responsibility. I just did a Facebook Live yesterday about not owning the problem, not taking responsibility. All of those reactions have the same goal: get away. And that is totally normal. That's what I want people to understand. That is actually built into us. You know, if you see a big rattlesnake curled up and he's hissing and you are going to get out of there. Now for me, I am actually going to look for a shovel or a gun to kill that snake. So that just shows you that I truly am a fighter. Like that's how I grew up. Yes, Mark, I definitely agree that you are a fighter as well. I know him very well. So you know, but in the same sense, I would want to run from the snake too. If I knew like it couldn't get in my house and I was in a desert, I would run. But what I want you to see is it's the same goal: distance. And what I believe God is calling us to these days is to not run from stuff, is to not create the distance, is to make an impact by coming in and saying, you know what, I'm not afraid of how you're rattling and hissing at me. I'm going to stand here and be a powerful person. I'm going to stand here and be a responsible person because I care about showing you love. And, you know, the Bible says to love our enemies. It doesn't say to run from them. David ran to Goliath. It's one of my favorite verses. He ran to Goliath because everybody else was sitting back just, you know, gossiping about it. But David actually did something. And remember what I said in the beginning, we want to have a goal, and we want to have a plan, and we want to take action. Those are the things we want to do in our relationships. And I want to make sure those are the things that you are doing, okay? Okay, I just said that. If you want to avoid ugly, you need to have a plan how you're going to respond. Someone is definitely going to be pushing your button. Someone might push your button today while you're driving. I know for me, my buttons get pushed a lot when I'm driving. My husband says that I have a lead foot. So what are some of the things that you guys do when your buttons get pushed? You know, comment down below. So a lot of us were never taught how to actually communicate and how to talk about our feelings. We were never taught to value what we were feeling. And so we don't feel safe to communicate how we're feeling inside. And so we put on these masks, we put on these, you know, acceptable social masks because we really don't want to face the truth. We will lie and say, oh, I'm not mad, I don't care. We'll say stuff like that. And we don't like to face the truth of how we're feeling or thinking or what we're needing. And so we end up communicating things that are really inaccurate, so it's not really true, or it's confusing. And we're going to talk about that here with the personalities. I quote this book, Keep Your Love On. I'm going to try to find it here in my bookshelf. Here it is. I'm going to show it to you. Danny saw it's an amazing book. I love it. This is like part of a section that he does cover that I'm going to pretty much kind of put my twist on it and cover some of it today. And then add in, you know, obviously Nick's stuff. Yes, Michelle says her 13-year-old, yes, my 10-year-old can do the same thing. Absolutely. And I'm sitting here afterwards going, what just happened? You know, so she's saying that you can go from like 0 to, people can push your buttons for sure. And they know how to push your buttons. That's a crazy thing. So there's a little psychology behind that too. But if we've never really, I want to read this. Let's read this together. If we've never really learned to validate and understand what's going on inside of you, how can you value and understand what's going on inside of another person? And my mentor always, yes, I have guilt too. I know what you mean, Michelle. My mentor always says, you can never see someone else's pain or value until you see your own. And it's like what the Bible says, love others as you love yourself. So the way we're loving others is how we're loving ourselves. So if we're not validating our feelings, we're not expressing our needs, we're not communicating accurate info, we are going to pass that on to our family. We are going to pass that on to our business partners and our coworkers and our employees. And I've worked with teams before. I've done coaching for businesses where, like, the employee, I'll always talk to the employees and say, how do you guys feel that the leaders, and they'll be like, we're confused. Like, one way we do it this way, and the next way we do it this way, and then something happens, and then it doesn't get addressed. And I mean, I hear it all the time. So it's very interesting. Confident people live by this motto. And we're going to talk about assertiveness in this workshop. Only those who value and understand themselves can value and understand others. I always tell people in business, you will never be good at business until you understand yourself and you understand how to work with other people. You will never be good at business. You could make a lot of money, but it doesn't mean you're good at business. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. Because business isn't about making money. Business, where do you get your money from? You get it from people. Business is about having people skills. Business is about solving problems. So only those who communicate honestly, let's read that one, with themselves can communicate honestly with others. You know, the number one person we lie to the most? Yeah, yourself. That is the number one person we lie to the most, is ourselves. And it's kind of scary, huh? So powerless people, and Danny talks a lot about this in the book, he uses that terminology, communicate out of fear, and they do that in 3 different styles. The first one is passive, and it's kind of interesting as we get into this to see like who marries who and who's drawn to who and whatever. So the passive person obviously is drawn to the aggressive person. So the first one we'll talk about is passive. So this is someone who literally will not communicate their ideas, their feelings, or decisions. And like I said earlier, I constantly hear people say, my husband won't talk to me. He won't tell me how he's feeling. I try to pry it out of him, you know. And yesterday I talked about, you know, owning your part in the problem and seeing what the problem is. And this is a huge problem in relationships. And the root issue of it goes back to what we just, whoops, I lost my cursor. What we just said here is that you don't communicate honestly with yourself. You're not going to communicate honestly with other people. So, and again, what is feeding that? Fear. Fear is feeding that. Hey, Gina. So the passive person will hold back their ideas, feelings, and decisions. They will not communicate honestly. They will lie to you and say, oh, I'm not mad. I'm not angry. I'm not upset. I don't care. And that's fine. That is what you'll hear them saying. They lack self-confidence. They will make excuses. They will definitely avoid. These are our freezers and our flight people. They will run and they shut down. And the problem with this is when you shut down with the negative stuff, you also shut down with the good stuff. So the other person isn't feeling loved. They're not feeling connected to, because this person is shut down. And this destroys relationships, completely destroys it. The passive person looks very safe. They're actually not. They're very unsafe. Their core belief says, you matter and I don't. So basically, they're saying, this is what they're saying. They're convinced that the world is, everyone else is more important. So these are our caretakers. These are those moms that are just going to the ends of the earth for their children, and then they have all these health issues because they're not taking care of themselves. These are who these people are. And this is what they're saying inside. I know I cannot control you, so I will not get involved. If I get involved, it could get messy. And other people might get hurt. I might get hurt. You might get hurt. I would rather keep the peace and do nothing to engage. How many of you all know someone like that? Post, wave your hand in the comments or give a thumbs up if you know someone or you're like that. This is a very victim type mentality, and they don't do it because they don't benefit, they don't want to be with the other person. They do it because they're self-protecting. It's a very easy way out, very easy way out. And that's why in therapy, a lot of really good therapists know how to, ask good questions and kind of call out the person who's doing that. Because what winds up happening is you get a lot of neglect and kind of just abandonment from the person who's with the passive person. Others' rights and needs take priority over mine. Remember what I said, love others as you love yourself. Now, I mean, we're not gonna have a theological discussion. There is something about laying down your life, but you have to get your life back in order to lay it down. So these people don't even have their identity. They're just, their whole validation comes in taking care of people or letting the other person have all the reign and control. And that's safe for them. They can, and honestly, inside they're miserable. They're like, wow, when's it gonna be my turn? They get really bitter and resentful. And people, think, oh, they're just so passive, and or they'll say, oh, I'm an introvert or this and that. No, this is a ineffective way to communicate. Very ineffective way. They definitely would rather keep the peace. But here's the thing that they do. They withhold love. So remember when I said, when you're trying to protect yourself, you're trying to protect yourself from negative things. But what they wind up doing is that if I'm shut down and shut off, nothing's coming out. So not even the good stuff's coming out. You're not even going to feel love from me. You're not going to feel comfort or that you really truly care. That's how someone who's married to someone who's very passive, that's how they feel. For a while, they can get away and be like, oh, so-and-so doesn't care. They don't care. But but at the end, it destroys the relationship. And hopefully the passive person kind of starts to come in touch with their feelings and be able to communicate if they see someone or get help. And then they start standing up for themselves. And then you see that whole dynamic. It's very similar to a addiction relationship. So if you're like, let's say your child has an addiction and you're the enabler. Once that child starts getting better and starts like standing up for themselves, the enabler is like, oh no, I don't have a job to do anymore. So it's very, very similar to that. They emotionally neglect those around them. That is huge. It is not a good quality. People think, oh, passive, they're just, You know, they don't care. They're easygoing. You'll hear them be described like this. They're so just nice. And this, listen, nice is not kindness. That is not really loving someone well. You're actually emotionally neglecting someone when you're shutting down. And a lot of people won't call this out because of the way it looks to the world. It's like, oh, they're quiet, so don't you know, poke the bear or whatever. Speaking of bears, this is what I look like when I get mad. You can ask Mark. He's seen me mad. We've seen each other mad, right, Mark? So anyways, I'll quit picking on you. Aggressive style, okay, the grizzly bear. This says, I matter and you don't. We are the loud ones in the room. They can be bullies. They manipulate by gaining power over people. But they'll do it very openly. They won't try to hide it. They'll basically say, oh no, I got this. You should do A, B, and C, and D. You know, they will just take over, take charge, and then all of a sudden you're left going, wait a minute, I didn't even have a say in this, you know? So that's the aggressive person. Unfortunately, I grew up with this, so I was modeled this, and this was the trait, this was the style I took because it made me feel powerful, even though I was very scared inside, very insecure. So don't be fooled. The aggressor is a big fat baby inside, okay? Big old cuddly teddy bear inside. And they are scared poopless, okay? I can promise you. And that's why they do what they do. Bob said that's what he looks like on Mondays, only not as cute. Yeah, I don't think that bear is cute, Bob. That bear is scary. They are critical, constantly negative, constantly saying what you're not doing right and how they can do it better. They are constantly putting down other people. They're huge gossipers. They'll talk about everyone and basically make them look like losers and idiots. You'll see a lot of this on Facebook. You see a lot of this in our media, on the news channels. There's no assertive communication. It's all bashing because they're afraid. And they're trying to gain power. This is all a big power struggle. The passive person's just as power struggle as the aggressor. The passive person's power is being quiet. Because let me tell you, if I'm trying to call you and you ain't picking up the phone, guess who's got control? The passive person who ain't picking up the phone. Now the aggressor, that is like the worst thing you can do to an aggressor is ignore them. So that's why they marry passive people. Because the aggressor, you know, at first the passive person's like, oh, this aggressor is bringing such life to me. And even though they're loud and, you know, spicy, they're very saucy people. And so they're attracted to that. But then once they get in a relationship, it's not good. The aggressor basically will devour the passive person. Passive person gets to stay stuck in their negative, you know, emotions. They get bitter. They go and talk about the aggressor behind their back to all their friends and tell them, you know, how awful they are. And then they come back and they're like, yes, honey, anything you want. So yes, Elaine wrote, power, power, power. That's exactly what all of this is about. This is all a big, fat power struggle. And we get caught up in it every day. That's the thing of why I'm doing this workshop. And sometimes I'll realize it. I'll be like, wait a minute. They're trying to pull me into a power struggle. I ain't doing this. I'm not playing this game. So they're very sarcastic, very distrustful of other people, just like the passive person. The passive person is very distrustful too. So that's why they self-protect and withhold love. But this person is like coming at you, like, I'm going to make you like me. I'm going to make you. They think it's their job to fix everyone. So you'll see that as control. And it'll look like it's help, but it's not. They're being very pushy with it. They're demanding. That's like one of the words I would definitely describe as a person. They might take a lot of form of giving advice or solutions. So you'll see a lot of this in leadership. You will see this in leadership. And when the advice isn't taken, you're an idiot. You're a loser. They'll get angry at you. They might not even talk to you if you don't take their advice. It's kind of crazy. And they will try to convince you and demand that you do it their way or the highway. It's their way or the highway. And they will use that as an excuse to not connect with you. They'll say, that person can't handle me. I'm too much for them. And, you know, it's funny in these days when everybody's into self-help and you're your best, you know, coach or whatever. I see a lot of this. I see a lot of people not understanding other people, and they go too far on the spectrum. So they have their voice now, but now they're still not loving well. They're still trying to, you know, well, if they don't listen to me, then I'm out of here. And that is something I will admit I have struggled with for sure. And just thank God for the Holy Spirit that I've been able to say, okay, wait a minute. I value connection. What is my goal? Remember we talked about what is my goal? What is my plan on how to respond? And what is my action that I'm going to do? Bob said, yeah. Yes, you can be all types. Mark asked, yes, absolutely. You can vacillate in between, between these, depending on who you're with. So in work, I can be very aggressive. At work, I can be very like, we need to get this done, da, 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 da. And I have to catch myself and be like, okay, stop. I'm being demanding. I'm trying to control everything. And I have to like really step back. Cause like I said, I was modeled that. So that is like what I know. And then I can, you know, if you're around another aggressor, you can become very passive and kind of almost shut down. So yes, you can go in and out of them depending on, you know, who you're with and how you're reacting. And I'm glad you asked that, Mark, because this is the whole goal of the workshop, is that we become assertive in all times. We don't vacillate in and out of any of these, because none of these are effective and none of these are loving someone. None of them. I want to reiterate that. This does not look like love. This is not love. And people will say it is. They'll be like, oh, you know, they just want to keep the peace, Nicole, and rescue everyone and take care of everyone. And I'm like, yeah, and you're not doing that other person a favor. Like speaking of a past person. Or the aggressor, like, well, I'm just telling them what they need to know so they can change. And I'm like, yeah, that's not love. So, yeah, we talked about that. Their job is to fix your problem. That's what they think. And they think that is loving well. And it's the way they're doing it. If you do it assertively, it looks like love. It looks totally different. We're going to talk about that. Carol says she's developed a lot of bear tendencies. Yes, it is definitely the golden retriever. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and we'll talk about that. Here's my favorite, passive aggressive. This is what I think everybody denies that they are, but we actually are very much like this. Because this is the in-between. This is, I can be really mad and angry, but I can act like I'm not and be like, oh no, like see his smiley face. He's like, I'm not mad. No, not at all. I think we do this more than any of us like to admit. So what does this say? It says, you matter, and I do care about you, but actually I don't. And it's the I love you, I hate you kind of thing. It's really both of those other styles we just talked about, the bear and the golden retriever, but mixed. So this is, to me, I think this is the worst kind, because you feel super confused when someone is operating like this all the time. And there are people that do act like this all the time, and it's horrible. I'd rather the aggressor, at least I know what I'm getting, or the passive person, I know like, okay, not to, you know, disrupt them, but it's like with this type, they cause all sorts of havoc when you operate out of this. So these are very manipulative. I think passive aggressive, out of all three of them, are the most manipulative. Because it's very subtle and covert, and it's so these are people that are jabbing, they're making little jabs, they're saying stuff, and they're really angry, but they will lie to your face and be like, oh, I'm not mad at you. No, we're good. We're absolutely good. And then they keep jabbing. You probably have a lot of family members that do this. It's very aggravating and super confusing. Yes. But let's not judge, because we do this too. We do this at times, and I want you to think about how you do this. Remember, I can't help anyone else unless I help me first. So I need to see where I'm doing this. I need to, I'll even think, you know, in the house, and I'll be like, oh, I'm not gonna do that for Gavin. I'm not doing that. And then I'll think, oh, wow, that's super passive aggressive. Like, I'll literally just be like, oh, that's totally uncool. So I want us to start calling ourselves out first before we, you know, but I do want you to think about the other people in your life that are bothering you in this realm. They appear sweet and nice. I do a lot of counseling with people that struggle with this, and in the counseling room, they'll be like, no, you have no idea. You don't live with them. You should see what they're saying to me, what they're, you know, and it's the kind that's, you know, they're screaming, and then they pick up their phone and they're like, hello, Bob, how are you doing? Oh yeah, it's so sweet, you know, and they're acting and everybody loves them and thinks they're nice. So that's why it's so covert. That's why I think it's the most worst out of all of them, because it's very hidden. You know, just like shame likes to hide, this stuff likes to hide. And that's why we need to bring it to light in ourselves when we're doing it. We need to catch ourselves, because manipulation is not kingdom behavior at all. At all. I don't care what anyone says. I think it should be destroyed and go back to the pit of hell where it belongs. And that's what you see in media. That's what you see, you know. Yeah, we don't allow them to manipulate or let them control you. Yeah. And then they do. They get really angry because you're not playing the game. You are not playing the game. That's so true. I love this little meme. I just threw this up there, and I want to keep track of time. I actually can't see my clock on the phone. So, because I could go on, I could talk about this stuff all day long. I know you're upset. Why don't you post something passive aggressive in a Facebook status and not explain the situation to anyone? Because that usually helps. Okay, so it's very, yes, it's scary, Carol. You're absolutely right. It is scary. This passive aggressive is what psychopaths are made of. Okay, like for real. So anyway, I love this meme because it's so true. Like, how many times do you guys know someone and they're going through something and they keep just posting and posting and posting? And it's like, man, just come out and say it, you know, just come, why don't you go to a person and talk to them and find out what's going on? So they do that a lot, right? And trust me, honey, there have been times where I have been like, I am going to just say this on a post. And then I'll stop and I'll be like, oh, that's super passive aggressive. I'm actually really angry at this person, and I'm going to post it on Facebook because I think that's going to make me feel better, or get at them because I know they'll read it, and then I don't post it. So again, if you don't take anything out of this workshop, take that, like learn how you are responding to certain things when you're mad or upset. So aggressives, you know, I matter, you don't, they look like winners even though they're not. And the passives, hey, I'm just going to protect the peace, and I'm going to shut my mouth, and I am not going to, I'm just going to be a warm body who has emotionally abandoned my family. That's what a passive person does. We want to be assertive. We want to have both wins. We want to be in a win-win situation. And when you're assertive, thank you, Bob. When you're assertive, you attract assertive people around you. When I know what's going on inside of me, and I might be getting ahead of myself, people will see that. They absolutely will. They will see it and they will admire it because they don't have it. And that's what I want to see more in the world. I want to see people who can be vulnerable and not be scared of difficult conversations or conflicts or confrontations, or, you know, messy, like, oh no, my kid's a professional mistake maker, okay? He's gonna make mistakes, so is my daughter, you know? And then why am I freaking out and screaming at him, which sometimes I do, and I'm like, what is wrong with me? Like, why am I trying to control them? You know, that's not love. And I always use kids because that's such a heart thing with us. You know, we can, you know, say, oh, everybody else, but our kids, you know, we want to preserve that connection till the day we die, right? Or with our parents or with family members. So we want to be vulnerable. We want to be, but we also want to be clear and honest on how we're feeling. And we can't do that till we start putting that flashlight in and saying, wow, am I being truthful right now with my spouse when I'm telling him that doesn't bother me and it actually does bother me? Or I'm just ignoring him and pouting. I love this because in my relationship with my children, I will tell them, hey, this is a two-way street and you matter in this conversation just as much as I do. Because here's the thing about little kids, the reason why I'm using them so much is, yes, I do want to save the world away with Jesus in me. The reason why I say this so much is because kids, what are they all about? Themselves. They're like, mine, 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 mine. You know, they sound like the Nemo movie. So they're all about, they think the world is revolving around them. And most parents are actually making the world revolve around them, which is a huge, huge error. Or it's going to bite them in the butt later on. Let me put it that way. So I always tell my kids, hey, I'm in this conversation too. I live in this house too. And this relationship, what me and you have, we both matter in it. So your opinion and your needs don't trump mine, and mine don't trump yours. A lot of parents will go the aggressive way, and I am more bent on this, where it's like my way or the highway, because I said so, you know, because I'm the parent, you know, and I have to, there is a time for that with, you know, protecting our children, obviously, like, you know, I'm not going to let them go do crazy stuff. But when it comes to their emotional health is just as important as mine. And we both have to know that and have that as our goal. You matter, and so do I in this relationship. Your needs don't trump mine, and my needs don't trump yours. Now, obviously, don't like, you know, send me emails like, Nicole, so you're ignoring your kid. No, I'm not ignoring my kids. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about emotional needs. Let me tell you, if you could get this, you would raise the healthiest kids in the world. And listen, I'm still trying to get it. I have not arrived on this with my kids. I still do want to do the aggressor and try to control them when they are making mistakes. I still do get afraid when they make mistakes sometimes. But then I have to go back to this and say, wait a minute. I am going to let them manage them, and I'm going to help them do that because I am their parent. And then I'm going to manage me. And there's a lot of times when I have yelled at my kid, and I'm like, wow, I totally blew that, didn't manage myself, but thank God for grace. Like kind of what Michelle was talking about. I can definitely relate to that. So assertive people are not afraid to express what's going on inside of them because they value themselves. Now, I just want to add a disclaimer here though. You need to express it with respect, okay? I was telling Gavin, I'm a spicy girl. He married that. He got the passionate, you know, mouthy, you know, that's what he signed up for, right? So when I'm expressing something negative, like, hey, I don't like what you're doing and it's causing me this, I may still be doing it very intense, right? But as long as I'm doing it respectfully, then that's what an assertive person will do. They can be emotional and intense and loud like me, and I mean, I'm kind of a spaz, but as long as I'm doing it with respect and honor, then that's good. Bob asked a good question. Why would you get afraid when they make mistakes? I think it's like this inner thing, like, because you don't want them to. It's almost like you think, why did they do that? You know, what were they thinking? I can't believe they did that. You know, it's like you think this is like some shocking thing, and you think and I think, well, I'm gonna have to clean it up. And that's where it kind of goes back to what I talked about yesterday on the Facebook Live. No, they need to own responsibility for their mistakes. They need to take responsibility. So that's why. I think it kind of like reflects on the parent, and you think, oh my gosh, you know, I hear a lot of parents with drug addiction kids say, I don't know what we did wrong. I don't, you know, like they're just afraid. You're afraid for your child's protection. You're afraid they're going to grow up to be, you know, psychopaths. I don't know. there's a little bit of anxiety, underlevel anxiety when you have kids. It's just like there. So anyways, okay, here's the other thing. And again, I have a whole section on boundaries, which I'm not going to cover today because it would take up too much time. But read the book Boundaries. That's a good starter. If you haven't read that book, Henry Cloud, I think that's his name. Maybe I'm wrong. Could be something else. It's Henry something. Anyway, they set consistent boundaries with both parties equally can participate in pursuing the goal of the conversation. Okay? We'll talk about that. So this is what the assertive's response to the passive person is. Okay? So what are you going to do about it? So, you know, you're telling this passive person, hey, I feel this way, and we're going to talk about I statements here in a minute. And they're just sitting there going, okay, yeah, I hear you. That's what passive people do. They do not offer any words. And so then you say, well, do you see this as a problem? Yeah, I guess. So what are you going to do about it? So what are you doing? You're putting the responsibility back on them. We're in this relationship, takes two to tango. This is how I'm feeling. I feel, not how you feel. Don't tell people how they're feeling. Only tell people how you're feeling, okay? You don't know how other people are feeling. I don't care how much it's evident. I am feeling this way. What are you going to do about it? Puts it back on them because it is their problem. And you know, it goes back. Watch the Facebook Live from yesterday. Yes, every parent wants to save their child from hurt. Amen, sister. The aggressor, this is what you say, the assertive person. I can only talk to you when you decide to be respectful. Or I'll say, we can finish this conversation when you've calmed down and you're not name calling me. okay? Because I have been called names, not by Gavin, but just in, you know, gang members and employees and you name it. My sister. So I will only talk to you when you decide to respect. And again, this goes back for me too. If I'm being disrespectful, I need to stop and say, you know what? Let me take time out and go calm down a little bit, and then we can finish this conversation. Because I care about you, and what is my goal? Connection. I don't want distance. I might be going fast, but I'm trying to respect time here. To the passive aggressor, we can talk later when you choose to be honest and responsible to tell me what's really going on and what you're feeling. So this happens when they're not telling you they're feeling, or they're lying and saying, well, I don't care. Well, okay, well, if you didn't care, then why did you slam the door and break it off its hinges? That shows me that there is a problem. Do you see that being a problem? Because now we don't have a door on our house. So anyways, Bob says, I probably am your long lost sister. I think I am, Bob. So we want to create a safe place, okay? That's what we want to do. Because same with the passive aggressive. I know I kind of demonize that style, even though we all do it. But they are scared too. That is why they're manipulating, and they're trying to get away with not sharing, not being honest. That's what they're trying to do. So we want to create a safe space and give good information about what's going on inside of me. And you know what, guys? I've been doing counseling for a long time, and I even still have to check in with myself, because I'll be like, wait a minute, why am I feeling this way? Why am I feeling like I want to go like punch them in the throat? You know, like you got to really know how you're feeling. And sometimes, like, especially, you know, some of the men I've counseled, they didn't have words to put to their feeling, or they had shut down so much that they couldn't remember what it felt like to be sad, you know? So that's why always getting a coach or a mentor or someone to help you out, walk through this and process this with you is really important. And if your kids are going through stuff, it's really important you get someone who's not you, maybe, to walk through this with them. But they need to be really good. Don't get some, there's a lot of bad therapists out there. Tell them how you experience their behavior. Okay, I'm experiencing. Don't talk about what they're doing. Most people in confrontation say, you did this, and you did this, and you are doing this, and you didn't do this, and you didn't do that, and you don't talk to me, so how can I? And what are they doing? They're telling everybody what they're doing, and not saying, I'm experiencing this. Don't talk about what you think about their character or their motives. We don't know the motives. The Bible says, you can't discern the motives of man's heart, but God can. And don't try to play God either and be like, well, God told me that, blah, blah, blah. that usually doesn't work. It doesn't go over well, okay? It's not really going to get you good results, even though you think it might. That's manipulation. That's playing a religious card is what I call it. All right, so here's your formula, and hopefully most of you that are on have signed up, so you will get my notes, and you will get this, because this is coming down tomorrow. So when you blank, so when you slam the door, and it breaks off the hinges, I feel scared, unsafe, confused, because you are telling me you're not mad. So that's a good way of me talking to maybe a passive aggressive person. Or when you don't, I have a bunch of examples. When you are consistently late for our appointments, so this is good with business. I feel disrespected and devalued because I want to feel more value from you in this business relationship. I want to work together, and I want to, whatever it is. Mark's laughing at my door. I know, I come up with really crazy off the cuff examples. I feel scared when you speak to me in a loud voice. My kids probably should, I do teach my kids I statements, but see, here's the thing about I statements. We forget to use them because we're caught up in the moment, and the only thing we can think of is you did this, you did that. What do little kids do? She made me, she made me mad. She made me do it. My son will say that, about his sister. And it's her fault, like she did, and stop. Use your I statements. I feel what? What are you feeling right now? So this is a great tool, because it makes you call out your feelings, and it makes you a little vulnerable. It makes you vulnerable when you say, listen, I am feeling scared when you tell me that you're over this and that you're done. I'm scared when you're saying that. because, you know, whatever. I want to hear what you have to say. That's a really good line to use when you're in a confrontation. But I need to be able to feel safe with you to do that. I need to be able to feel like I can be vulnerable and express my emotions with you. Okay? That's really important. I feel anxious and frustrated. So these are different, like I try to use like different, you know, adjectives, you know, how you're feeling. There's a whole list of feelings actually in my manual. There's a, Pat and I, it's so funny because sometimes you don't know how you're feeling, and you might need to actually read over and see like, oh, I'm actually feeling more frustrated than I am, you know, anxious or whatever. You didn't explain how to do it. This was huge for me growing up. My dad would tell me to do something and I like wouldn't actually know how to do it. So I'd be completely terrified that I would do it wrong, which I wound up usually always doing it. And then I get punished for doing it wrong. So I want to help, but I need clear information so that I can be successful. That might be something you need to say to your boss, or you know, your business partner, or even your spouse. Like if there's, you know, if you guys work together, like Gavin and I have worked together for years. We were missionaries. We had our own nonprofit for 12 years. We have had like 5 or 4 businesses together. We have one now. We have a brokerage, a real estate brokerage. So sometimes he'll tell me to do something, but I don't know how to do that. I need you to explain it better, or I need you to, you know, go over it again. And sometimes, like, you know, for a real driven person, that can be annoying. Like that can be like, I gotta explain it to you again. But when you're saying it like, I feel like really anxious. I feel kind of like scared I'm gonna mess this up. Could, you know, because you didn't explain how to do it. So do you see like why it's so important to do that? Giving good feedback will definitely help you appreciate and adjust to another person. It would actually, when you say an I statement to me, I'm like, oh, okay. It softens that. You know, the Bible talks about how a soft answer, like, you know, reduces the quarrel. So that's kind of what this is. That's exactly what this is. Instead of saying, you did this and you should have known. And it's like, no, you shouldn't have known. I'm not a mind reader, you know? Okay, ask good questions. Yesterday I did a Facebook Live and I talked about this. So go, I don't know where it's at. I think it's in the Get Heart group, and it might be on this page, Get Heart Media. And it's called, you know, it's about identifying the problem. Like, whose problem is this? Asking good questions, like what? So with my kids, instead of saying, why did you spill that? You know, why did you throw that ball at your sister's head? You know, because immediately, what do? They get defensive. Why is a word that makes people very defensive? You know, why did you do this? Why, you know, blah, blah, blah. So instead you say, what was going on when you threw that? Like, what was happening here? So then they have to explain. They have to take ownership. They have to say, well, she made me mad. She said this, and then I picked up the ball and threw it. So then he admits it, right? If I say, why'd you throw the ball? I didn't throw it. I didn't, you know, it's, you guys like how I imitate my kids? They actually don't sound, well, sometimes they sound like that, I shouldn't say. This helps people own the problem. They may not own the problem, but it helps them. It kind of shifts the whole frame to making them take ownership or explain. This is really good. This is in my notes, I think. Yeah, I think I put it in the notes. So I put some examples of it in the notes. But yeah, you want to do a lot of reflecting when there's confrontation or conflict. You want to be like, you know, it sounds to me like you are feeling confused because I went to this place and you thought I was going here. That happens a lot in marriage. You know, there's a lot of misunderstanding. It's like, no, I told you I was going here. You never told me that. Okay. Yes, 23 years this September, people. So I think I have a tiny bit of experience, just a tiny bit. My parents were married for 52 years, so I'm not sure I'm following you. Okay, you know, what I'm hearing you say that's reflective. Okay, you're not assuming. They say one thing, well, I didn't, you know, and then you get all defensive. You're saying, okay, hold on, let me get this straight. You know, what I hear you saying is you thought we were meeting at this place when you told me the other place. So you see what it does? It sheds light on the subject. It sheds light and says, oh, I thought you meant this. And then you can get some understanding. You don't have to agree. You just have to understand what the other person's saying. That's the whole point of communication. And we've come very far from it, by the way, very far from this. We don't practice this at all. I could teach it till I'm blue in the face, but it doesn't mean anything unless you actually implement it. It means nothing unless you put it into action. So in my course, I go through confrontation and a whole how to create effective solutions. It looks like we wrapped up. Hopefully it's been an hour. I'd have to look at the time. Does anybody have questions? Sorry, I was still reading your your remarks. Have you ever run across someone that you know when none of this works? Yes, Mark asked that. And Mark, if you want to explain a little bit, I can give you some pointers, but yes, and that kind of goes back to, hopefully this will answer your question, and if it doesn't, clarify in the comment. When you say it doesn't work, I guess that's what I mean. Like, what do you mean it doesn't work? Because there is more techniques. I just didn't cover all of them. They're going to be in my course, so which will be coming out soon. My next live, yes, Michelle, I'm so excited, Michelle. And I need your address because I'm going to send you my book. And I'm going to give away 2 other free copies of the book too. Okay, going back to Mark's question, this is where my ADD comes in. When this doesn't work. So what I always ask people then when it's not working, and I said this yesterday in the live, I definitely highly encourage you guys to go back and watch that again, because that is actually in my course as well, like working on the problem. Because the root of it is that the person doesn't see the problem. They're like, this is how I am. You know, you'll hear those excuses. Well, this is just how I am. And it's like, okay, well, again, it kind of goes back to that. We're both in this together. So if we want to stay connected, what is our goal? Is our goal distance or is it connection? Danny talks a lot about that in Keep Your Love On. And so it really goes back to that, like how much, there have been times, Mark, and you know this person, where I had to realize, like, you know what, I can love this person because that's what I'm called to do. But we may not be in relationship with each other. We may not be in connection with each other, or we may have a very shallow connection. It might just be like, hey dude, what's going on? Because I can't be vulnerable and safe with them. And no matter what I've done in the past to try to express that, and not that I've done it perfectly. Don't get me wrong. That is one thing I do try to say when I'm in a place where this stuff doesn't work. I'll say, listen, I have done things wrong as well, and we both have. And what is our goal? Are you someone that I can trust, and then I can feel safe, and then I want to have a close connection with? So I guess I would ask priority, like what is the priority of that relationship? You want to define the relationship, DTR. We always talk about that in therapy. Define your relationship. You've got your Jesus had his inner circle, you know, James, John, and Peter. Then he had the 12, then he had the 7, you know, then he had the crowds, right? So he obviously had more connection, more priority with his inner circle. Gavin obviously is going to be the main guy that I am having priority with, period. And then my children, you know, then everybody else gets to have that connection with me. But his is the one that I want to, you know, have the most. Now, when this doesn't work, none of this stuff works, none of these techniques, that they don't hear you, they don't value you, it's because they don't value themselves, right? They're not being honest with themselves. And I guess at the end of the day, and this is what I tell people, because I have encouraged people to, even though I don't like to, because I feel like we can still be assertive people, but you don't have to be in relationship with them. You don't have to have a constant ongoing. Now, they might be family members that you talk to, you know, and have to see at Christmas or something. And that's when you can take this and just be assertive and just call out the jabs and call out that stuff, you know. So I guess what I was saying is your definition of when it doesn't work. I guess maybe what you're asking is, do you terminate the relationship? And I've never dismissed a person because I feel like there's always hope for someone. But I definitely choose not to have them in my inner circle or be friends with them. They will be acquaintances. They will be people that I will have shallow connections with, unfortunately, because you can't force anyone to get this stuff. You can't force anyone to see your heart and validate your feelings. That's the sad part. That's where the grieving has to come in and really, yes, I know. Yeah. Yeah. We both have shared our stories, Mark. So that's where it comes in. And that is, some of that is in the book, the manual, and it's a workbook. So you can actually work through it. And so I'm really excited, Michelle, to send that to you. The next live, when is the next live? Probably, what is today? Tuesday. Okay, so I probably will do one more this week. And yes, I will let you know. I will post it. I will post about it. So definitely, thank you so much for following me. I will post the link if you guys, if someone on is going to watch this later. And yes, yeah, me too, Mark. I've had to grieve and forgive and release. Yeah. And sometimes I have to do it, you know, like really like consciously, you know, because it's something that we're intentionally doing. All of this stuff is intentional, because let me tell you, the enemy will oppose all of this. Everything I taught today, he will not want you to do it or practice it, because he wants division and he wants distance in your connections. He doesn't want you to validate your feelings and validate other people's feelings, because that would be loving them well. And his whole thing is to not let you love well. And that is why this is so important. This is like discipleship 101. This is like really what it's like to, does it make anybody mad when people don't get it? Yes, yes. But then again, we got to look at that. And I've had and Mark, this is for you too. We've had to, I have to look at the mercy that God has given me. Because here's a verse that's a real kicker for me. And this goes back to forgiveness and grace. And I'm learning this. I have not arrived on this, but the verse that always gets me is when it says, oh, Michelle's so cute. The verse that gets me is when it says, unless you forgive, your Father will not forgive you. It's funny, because at the cross, we were completely forgiven and we received that forgiveness. And guess what, guys? Now it's our turn to go and love our enemies, to love people who don't get it, to put boundaries down with people who don't get it, to value and honor the person, but not necessarily have to be in relationship with them. You see what I'm saying? So we do have to forgive, or else our Father will not forgive us. And it's a huge issue. I really feel like we're coming into a time where we are going to have to love our enemies. And I feel like this is like the forerunner, the pioneering, you know, way to help us love the people we're in connection with already and love them better. And then get to that step, because I'm definitely not there. Get to that step of loving your enemies. So anyway, you guys are so sweet. Carol wrote, it's easier to recognize what is unhealthy, but a lot harder to know the healthy response needed. Yes. It's really easy to pull out the dysfunction and the patterns and just be like, okay, now how do I fix that? How do I become, how do I become the solution to that? And let me tell you guys, I just want to encourage you. God is looking for a people who have this solution. He really is. He's looking for a people. You know, it says in the Bible, they will know you're Christians by your love for each other. That's what it says. How crazy is that, right? So then we can love, Mark and I can love the people that abused us, that like did horrific, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what he's looking for. And I'll tell you, man, it is a process, because it is not an overnight thing. It's not. And thank God for his grace and mercy. That's all I got to say. So anyways, you guys have a great time today. Thank you so much for joining me and interacting. I love doing lives, because you guys can interact and I can interact with you. That's why I didn't do this. I was going to do this pre-recorded, but I want to hear the interaction. And so if you have other questions, or later on today, you think about something, post it down here and let me know what else you'd like topics done on around this, because I have a ton of content. I am putting it together for a course in the future. So anyways, in the meantime, get heart, and definitely know that I am rooting for you, encouraging you, and praying for you. And please post in the comments. Yes, I love you too. I love you guys. I do love all you guys. I love you too, Bob. Post in the comments anything else you want to, like Michelle, like any other Facebook, like topics around this, or any specific questions you have. You can even private message me too. But you guys will be getting the replay if you signed up. This will come down tomorrow. And for everyone who signed up, you can get my notes and the replay. and then I'm doing the giveaway. So you'll get a book. I'll email you and get your address. All right, you guys, take care. Thanks so much. I got to figure out how to get out of here. All right, you guys take care.